Hey guys, it's Jim with Technisonic, and thanks for coming back. We are here in episode 2 of our Radio 101 series on firmware updates, execution. So what we're going to do today is we're going to take the tools from preparation and put all those to work. We're going to start with connecting to the radio, going through the upgrade process, making our decisions there, and then going forward and restoring the configuration menus that we had previously taken pictures of. So those 3 steps, it's pretty simple. It's a lot of repetitive work, so it's a very easy thing to learn. And once we have this down, it's going to be a piece of cake for you going forward. Thanks for joining us, and let's get right into connecting to the radio. Okay guys, so the first thing we're going to need to do with our radio to start this upgrade process is to put it into its bootloader mode. Bootloader is just its base function. There's no software really running. And it's a simple process. It just takes a little bit of a practice hand. All we need to do to get the radio into bootloader is to give it its secret handshake. And what that is we need to press 7, 2, 3, and 0 simultaneously while powering up the radio. So I'm going to use my right hand. I'm just going to roll my finger starting with the index finger 7, 2, 3, and 0. And I'm going to hold those. And at this time, then I go ahead and power up the radio. But I'm going to continue to hold 7230 while the radio is booting. This will bypass the main software and allow the radio to come into bootloader, which it has. This is now showing us that we are in TDFM-9000 bootloader 172. So that's all it is to put the radio into bootloader. You might struggle with this a couple times till you kind of get the feel for it. That's pretty normal. Took me a while myself, but now it's a simple process. Our next step here was going to be go ahead and connecting to the TerraTerm software, and here we go with TerraTerm. Okay guys, so we have now our radio in bootloader mode. We're showing 172 as the software, and we are all ready to go. So our next step is to easily connect the radio to the TerraTerm software and start a conversation. So to do that, we're going to make our first use of this programming cord. So our PC9000 cord, we're going to go ahead and plug that in to the PGM port on the front of the radio. Once we have the programming port plugged in, we'll go ahead and now connect it to the laptop itself. We need the power of the radio to tell the USB how to affiliate itself with the radio or with your laptop. Once that's done, we're going to go ahead and open our TerraTerm software. And this is the software that we uploaded in the last video. We now have it ready and available to us. So we're going to go ahead and open that, and when we do that, we're going to get this TerraTerm new connection box. And it's asking, how do we want to connect? We're not going to utilize the TCP/IP. We are going to utilize the serial port. So I'm going to select serial port, and in this case my radio has port COM1 communications port. That's what it's showing me. That's not the port I'm looking for. So I'm going to go ahead and arrow down, and I see COM3 is a USB to serial port. That's what we're looking for, is that USB to serial port. It really doesn't matter the COM number. I'm going to go ahead and select that and say OK. Now once I say OK, I still have one more thing to do. I'm going to come right up to the top of the TerraTerm, and you see File, Edit, and Setup. I'm going to select the Setup box, and I'm going to scroll down to the 5th item in the line that says Serial Port. I'm going to select the serial port, and all I'm interested in is the baud rate. The baud rate says 9600. I am going to select and speed that up to 115.200. So 115.200 on the baud rate, and I say OK. And now I can hit the enter button on my laptop, and if all's well, I'm talking to the radio. And you can see on my radio it's telling me that I have bootloader 172. Well, that matches. It gives me my main application, my current software rev, front panel rev, and it gives me some controls. M for modules, P for purge, T for transfer, and such. So once we have here, now we can go ahead and start the next process, which is the next little bit of the video, and we're going to go ahead and load the bootloader. So here we go, moving into our first upgrade of the radio the bootloader. Okay, we need to know one thing about bootloaders before we begin. On the TDFM-9000 series radios, the 9000, 9200, 9300, they require a bootloader revision of no less than 1.7.2. Anything higher is fine. If your radio has a bootloader revision of less than 1.7.2, you must first update the bootloader, and we'll be looking at that in a moment. If you're operating a TDFM-9100, it does not require any bootloader updates at this time. Alright, so we are here and we have our TerraTerm started, our radio's in bootloader, and we're ready to load our first software. So we're going to look at this and we're going to go through this a couple times. I'm going to be a little bit repetitive because you're going to do it many times, and I want it kind of to stick. So when we're doing this, we have a couple things to do. We're going to transfer the software, so we're going to use the T command. And when we transfer the bootloader into the radio, we're basically putting a new foundation down. That's going to take everything above that line, and it's not going to operate anymore because we're telling the bootloader now to do something. We're changing the bootloader, we're changing the foundation. So once we start the process, then we're going to have to see it all the way through. Now, one more time, if you are at bootloader 172 or greater, you do not have to go through this process. Only if you're coming up from a lower bootloader level, older software, and you're at a 1.6 something, something like that. Okay, so the process is simple. All we're going to do is T for transfer the software, and then we're going to follow the following actions. We're going to hit the T for transfer, and then we're going to come up and we're going to say File, Transfer, Y modem, Send. That's going to open up this dialog box to find the file. That's why I said keep the software someplace simple, and for most people that's a download file. Now I go into Downloads, and I find my TDFM software, I open that up, and we're going to load the bootloader. So when I open up the bootloader folder, there's only one file in here, we can't make a mistake. That's the new bootloader right there. So once again, T for transfer, File, Transfer, Y modem, Send, and then you're going to select that bootloader file. For me, it's Downloads, Software, Bootloader, and I'm going to open that file. It's a simple process, but once we do that, we have to rebuild the rest of the radio. Okay, T for transfer. We hit T, we have these C's. This is a little bit of a timer, so we're on the clock to do this. Smooth is fast, File, Transfer, Y modem, Send, Downloads, 9100, Bootloader, Open. And now we're going to send the bootloader to the radio. And you can see we have competing views here. We have both the radio showing the upload, and we had a box showing the upload here. When it's done, it tells me the boot update 172 is okay. So we now have the new bootloader in the radio. So the next step is we have to reconnect, because we were connected to the radio before the bootloader. Now we want to restart the radio and initiate the use of that bootloader. So I'm going to go ahead and power down the radio. I'm going to disconnect my programming cable, and I am going to close TerraTerm. And we're going to go right back through that same process and just reconnect. 7230. Power, hold those 7230, hold it. The radio is now in bootloader. I'm going to go ahead and connect my PC cable. I am going to open my Terra term. I want the serial port, USB serial port, okay. Setup, serial port, 115.2, okay, and enter. And you can see now we're talking to the radio. Now we can actually begin the software upgrade. We're using the new bootloader and we can now start building on that foundation. So the process for that is pretty much the same, but we have a couple things to do before we get there. I'm going to go ahead and we're going to load the JM60s first. You want to load the JM60s first because they are the software. Those little JM60s are going to be looked at by the main software and kind of a query and say, what do you do, what do you do, what do you do? And the JM60s are going to say, I'm an APX module, I'm an APX module, I'm a T6 module. And it's going to tell them what they are. So the first thing we're going to do is look and see what modules we have in the radio. So I'm going to press M for modules and hit enter. And we can see I have 3 current modules in this radio. They're all band modules. Motorola APX module is running version 291 software. And I have that on modules 1, 2, and 3. Modules 4, 5, and 6 are not configured. We're going to need to go ahead and configure those modules. The way we do that is a simple command. Now since there's nothing here, I'm just going to tell them they're APX modules. I want all of the software to jive on this side, APX 291. Okay, I want all of these bootloaders to say APX 291. And by keeping those in sync, we're helping to guard against getting missing modules and turning on a radio and seeing something that's supposed to be there, not there. If those numbers are out of sync, that's one of the side effects that we can see. So a command is very simple that we want to do. I'm going to address module 4 first. So I'm going to say M4 for module 4. And then I'm going to go space and I'm going to say APX. I'm going to say enter. It says OK. I'm going to do the same again. M5. APX. Enter. Okay. M6. APX. Enter. And now if I hit M, and look what we have, we can see that we've updated all the modules to APX modules. Now I've done that with the empty slots that are in the radio. Even though there's not an APX module there is a JM60. Now if you're running a 9300, your module 5 is going to say something different. It's going to have a TAM, it's going to say a 30 to 50 module, a 118, a 225 module, whatever you happen to be running. And in that case, we don't have to overwrite that. We would just do 1 through 4 and leave 5 and 6 on their own. Alright, so now that they are all here, we're going to update the new software. We're going to update the APX modules, and that is the JM60. And to do that is the same process. I'm going to go T for transfer, and I'm going to come up and say File, Transfer, Y modem, Send. This is getting familiar, right? Oops. Downloads, 9100. I have a 9000. Now I'm going to the JM60 software, and there's my JM60 file I'm going to send. We're going to see the same thing happen. We're going to see the C's come across, and we're going to be on a timer. Then we're going to see the 2 boxes that show the software updating. So we're going to go ahead and load the JM60s. So I'm going to go T for transfer. There's my timer. File. Transfer. Y modem. Send. Downloads. 9000. TDFM-9000. JM60. Select and open. There's my 2 boxes. My installation box is showing. And this might take a moment or 2 on your radio. That's okay. Just be patient. It is actually clearing the old JM60 software out. It's purging that. And then it's going to go ahead and write the new JM60s in. That is done. And now I can hit M for modules once more. And on your machine, your old JM60s will not be at 291, but they'll be at something different, lower. And now when you hit M, you're going to see them as 291. The last little step I'm going to do with my JM60s is, if you recall, we just turned on module 4, 5, and 6. I'm going to turn those modules back off so the radio is not looking for a module that's not there. And the command is very similar. M4 for module 4, space, reset, enter. M5, space, reset, enter. M6, space, reset, enter. Now if I hit M again and take a look at that table, it's back to what we have. I know I had 3 bands in the radio. The bottom 3 are not configured, and we are all set. Okay, so far so good. We've reloaded the bootloader, connected back to the radio. We've updated the JM60. There's only 2 more things to do, and we are done with the software portion of the upgrade. The next portion of the upgrade is the main. That's the motherboard, the main operating software we're going to update. While the transfer procedure is the same, if you are making more than a point jump, if you're making more than a couple points, you're going from 272 to 291, or you're making more than a point jump on that, I want you to purge the radio. Now, if you're making just a small adjustment, you're going from 291 to 292, you do not have to do that. But if we're jumping more than that, than a rev or two, we want to purge the radio, get rid of all the existing software. This is really bringing the radio back to a factory setting. And that's good. But that also means the radio is going to look just like it did when it came out of the factory. None of those original changes that we made to the configuration menus and so forth are going to be applied. It's going to be back to factory. So that's why we took those pictures. So I'm going to hit P for purge. And I'm going to purge the radio of any existing main software. I don't want to override it. I want to get rid of it completely. And that is done. Purging, okay, complete. Now we're going to just transfer the file. I'm going to put the new main software in there. And that's the simple, you know it now, you can probably say it before I can. We're going to hit the T for transfer. I'm going to go File, Transfer, Y modem, Send. And you'll see I'm already at the JM60 software. So I can just jump up a folder and go to the main and say Open. There's my transfer box on both sides. It says done. It says 291 software is now okay on the Terra term. I'm back to the MCU prop. The radio says done. And this is complete. So we can go ahead and we can unplug the radio. And we can start the recycle the power. I'm just going to go ahead and kill the power on the radio. You want to make sure the dongle is unplugged. And you can go ahead and start the reboot on the radio. And I'm going to go ahead and disconnect and to close my Terra term. The radio's coming up. It shows 291. The modules are coming on. And here we go. I'm going to dim this down so we got a little better view. And now we have the radio back in its operating state with the new 291 software. We can go ahead and do a couple quick little tests. I'm going to hit the zone button. I'm going to select the zone that I like here. I'm going to go non-federal interop, select that. I'm going to go up in channels. There's VTAX. I'm going to bounce around my modules a little bit. I'm going to go power on, power off. I'm going to mute the radio, turn it back, tones off. Here's volume, and you're going to notice volume, channel, num lock, zone, and back to channel. So our options are back here. You can now see the display has changed a little bit because not before where I had just the direct indicator and a little speaker for PL tones. Now I can see my high-low indicator is back on, my encryption indicator back on, and my AVC switch is back on. So we can see we're back to factory on all of those settings. Again, we did not change anything in the modules, right? All of our stuff is still here. My zones are still here. I can still operate. I can grab what I want. I'm going to go to an FRS channel, FRS. My volume is here. Click. I want to change that channel. Everything is still there on the Motorola side, and now the Technosonic side is back up to a factory standard installation, our factory standards operating software. So I'm going to leave you with this right here. We're going to come back in just a few minutes and go through and reset our settings, and your update of your TDFM-9000 radio is complete. Okay guys, so we are successful in our upgrade. We have moved our radio up to version 291 software, or whatever version we're currently at. The radio is back in an operating status and everything has been checked out. We still have our code plugs. We're able to bounce around the radio as we need to. Our buttons are working properly. We are in good shape. Okay, so now the last thing to do is to restore the defaults that we had in the radio so it operates and looks the same way for the pilots. To do this, we're just going to go back into those configuration menus and we're going to restore and turn on and turn off the things that were set up. So what those are is to go into function and get to the configuration menus. We go function, and you can see already we have all these quick channel programs set up. Next, configuration menus. And we're going to go ahead and set these back up according to the pictures we had. Now on this particular radio, we had numlock was disabled. So I'm going to just select numlock and I'm just going to continue to press the button. That's going to bring me through revert, timer revert, and disabled. Recall mode was also disabled. So we're going to go ahead and do that same thing here. The 28 volt, and that was normal according to my picture. I hit the next button. Dual user was disabled. We were not using always on. We did have CSQ, the carrier squelch indicator, on, but high-low power indicator was disabled. ESW was disabled, as was TSW. And go ahead and hit next one more time. My side tone levels, I think they were right about 30, so those all still look good. Next, squelch blinking. For me, they were all enabled, and just a note, always enable the squelch blinking. It's just a nice thing for the pilots so that they can look down and they have an extra few moments to see what radio might have broken squelch and who was talking to them. Next. Numlock now is disabled, that's correct. Recall timer is disabled. My admin timer was set to 3, and I do that with the rotary knob. And it goes from 3 to 10. I'm going to set that back at 3 seconds. Alt menu direction. If you're in the US, you want to reverse that. And the mute indicator, depending on what your picture tells you to do that, whether it's enabled or disabled. Go to next. And I had some colors in here. I'm going to just say, let's say these are green. I can hit home. Now the radio is back into the same operating order it was. I've got, now you can't tell it because of the camera, but my screen is now green. I have all of my same setups, the speakers for the PL tones, the direct, and so forth. So now the radio is fully set up. Now I'm going to throw a word of caution at you, and this is something that you may want to do, or you may need to do. And that is when we default the radio back to its factory standard. Sometimes the master volumes can default back to 10. I've seen that happen on a number of radios. That's going to leave your pilots with, even if the volume here is set to 40, it's going to be a very low volume. So to get to that and check that, what we want to do is I want to say function, next, configuration menus, and then press the mode button. That brings me into the maintenance menu. The maintenance menu has a couple things here that you want to check. The first one is the mic level. Each radio, each module has its own mic level. Your mic level dictates how loud you are on the receiving end of your call. So when you make a call, how loud are you at the other end of that radio, at that other end of the call? If we have this turned way down, they're going to tell you they can't hear me. If we have it cranked all the way up, it could be, they could be saying that you're coming through garbled. We got so much modulation in there, so much power going through it that we're going to come through garbled at the other end. We want this somewhere in the middle, so I'm going to say, I think 29. I'm going to set 29 for each one. You don't want it maxed out, you don't want it too low. Then I'm going to hit next, and this is what I'm talking about. My receive audio levels, even though if I was on 40, I'm only putting out a power of 10. Okay? That's 10 out of 40. We want to do the same thing here. I want to bring this up. Let's say I'm going to say that 20 to 28 or 30. I'm going to bring it up, not totally up. Don't want to max it out, but I want to bring it up to 30. And I can say OK to that. And now I can just hit, I could hit the next button, but it's going to bring me up into a bunch of things I don't need to mess in. But I can hit the home button, and now I'm set. When I was at 10 on this weather channel, I would have had to max out my volume on the front of the radio to 40, and I still wouldn't be hearing it very well. Okay? But now that we brought that receive audio and we upped the amperage, we pushed out more, we opened that pipe up, I can have this down at 22, 28 and hear it just fine. And that way we're not maxing things out. So just something to be aware of. You might want to check this when you get to the radio and you do this work. And that completes the upgrade. You are fully updated, you are fully upgraded, and the radio is now working and looking the same way. And your pilots should be able to talk, hear themselves, and hear their calls just as clear as day. We thank you for watching the video. Thanks for sticking with us. And we hope you have a great day. And thank you for choosing Technosonic.